Caleb Jarreau. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Never better. So tell us about the offers flying fast and furious from on the hill.
Well, it is the dead period is over and the coaches are able to talk to guys. So that's really what's happening right now. And there was a junior day this weekend, but they call it a junior day and they just invite whoever they're after. So I wouldn't really call it a junior day. But one of the guys I've been most excited about was a 2026 quarterback, Josiah. I don't want to butcher his last name, Oxendine. And he's a 2026 guy, so a freshman in high school, and he has got a lot of attention very early. And Tennessee was one of the people who reached out to him early, and they've been on him. And he actually camped with Joey Halsley and Josh Heupel at at a couple of their camps, and he visited over the summer. So maybe he'll become the next Nico. I don't know, but he's already 6 foot, 185 pounds. He's got a lot of guys looking at him early, and Tennessee is in there early. So he's a guy that I think we should remember his name and follow along as he grows up and goes through his recruitment.
Who are some of the guys that are already on him? Or some of the schools,
Um,
I should say.
yeah, so he said he's talking to both Carolinas, so South Carolina, North Carolina, and then let me double check. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but I'm pretty sure he's also talking to some of the Alabama schools as well. But like we talked about before, and y'all can kind of add on to this, I think it's very important, even as Tennessee becomes better at their recruiting and better at football, that they still continue to find these guys early and get in early. Because at the end of the day, if they're like 50-50 on Tennessee or another school and they're like, hey, well, Joey Halsley has been coming to my camps and watching me play since freshman year, that might sway them a little bit. So that's one that I think. Clemson was a big one on his list. Georgia, he's camped with Georgia, NC State, Coastal Carolina, some schools like that as well, some smaller schools. But he likes Tennessee, and it seems like Joey Halsley is high on him as well.
Calhoun, take it away. Travis saying great coverage on the Lady Vols. By the way, Caleb Jarreau, so you're getting a shout out there as well. Statue of Dave Hooker with the white beard. I don't think they're going to put a statue of me anytime soon up there. I think both Calebs have a better shot at that. Roll with it, Calhoun.
I don't know. I think I've already upset enough people on Narky Top 2 who don't like me. But Jaru, I want to stick with 2026, funny enough, because I want to – normally when you offer somebody that early on, you would think like a quarterback because you have to get in early. But Tennessee has offered Jamarion Gordon, a 2026 prospect out of Alabama, and he's already comparing Tennessee versus Alabama. What are the chances Tennessee plucks him out of there, and then Nick Saban comes out and does some complaining and says there should be a new rule where Tennessee can't recruit players from Alabama?
Yeah, and I don't know about all that, but a funny thing is Nick Saban's MO, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but it hasn't really been recruiting guys early because he's never had to. If he wants somebody, whether they're coming to college next year or 2 years down the road, he can usually get them. So he's been recruiting Gordon early, and Gordon actually took a visit to Alabama. And when he was talking to me and he was comparing Alabama to Tennessee, he said that, and he's been to Auburn, so both in-state schools for him. He said that no school has had a place like Tennessee where they have a coach, basically like a tour guide, following him around and telling him like where he'll fit everywhere and kind of like what his day-to-day life will be. So he said that really stood out about him at Tennessee. He really enjoyed meeting Coach Heupel, and they got to sit down and watch film, and the coaches kind of told him he's a secondary player. So they kind of told him some of the things they look for when they're recruiting guys in the secondary, like how well your hips are, or how he can fit in Tennessee's defense, 4 years down the road. So I feel like that's another guy they're getting in early on, and obviously they're doing something right if he said that his visit to Tennessee was better than his visits to Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah, that's what threw me off is Nick Saban going for a cornerback in-state at 2026 must mean this guy is going to be really good. And now moving on to 2025, there's a Jalen Carey. Is that how you pronounce his last name or his first name?
I think it's just Jalen.
Jalen. Okay. All right. Can you talk about him, a local in-state prospect from Cleveland? You're right. Tennessee's been doing well in that Cleveland area recently. So talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, and for Josh Heupel, really, we saw this past class, the 23 class, and while he got some in-state guys, he was still new at Tennessee, and locking down the state borders wasn't – I mean, it's probably priority number one, but it wasn't something he could really turn around in half a year. So 24 is when we really see Josh Heupel attacking in-state and making sure that anybody Tennessee wants in the state of Tennessee, they can have. So out of Bradley Central, you have, 2025 Jalen Terry. And also out of Bradley Central was Marcus Goree Jr., who just committed not too long ago. So he's very familiar with the coaching staff, not just because of his visit to Tennessee, but because every time they went to Bradley Central to talk to Goree and Bradley Central's head coach, they also talked to Jalen Terry and some other guys over there. So they've obviously had a lot of success, and he really liked Heupel. And something that stood out about him when he was visiting Tennessee's facilities over the weekend was their emphasis on once you graduate from Tennessee, you're a Vol for life. Like, you can always come back. He talked about how the coaches told him that when Peyton Manning was still in the NFL, he would come back to Tennessee's facilities to get workouts in, and some other guys would also do that as well. And he said he really liked that. And he also liked that even if you leave Tennessee and you don't make it to the NFL, you're still welcome back into the facilities to talk to players and kind of give your insight on life. So that's something that stood out to him, and I think that was super cool that they did that.
I had a question about Jeremiah Smith, who's committed to Ohio State, and a lot of other schools have continued to make a run at Smith, including Tennessee, Miami, Florida, and Florida State. So we had a question on the message board. What I'm hearing as far as Smith is that this is if Tennessee or any other school is going to pull him, Ohio State's going to have to stumble this year. And if that happens, then you wonder just how dominant Ohio State will continue to be. And does he want to get in the SEC? Florida going after him, that feels like a reach to me. Florida State as well. But there is, an inclination for him to look at other schools. But I don't think anything's going to happen with him until you get to the season, and maybe, I'm not saying things will go south for Ohio State. I haven't really dove into them yet, but if things were to go south, then I think that other schools could get involved, and that would include Tennessee. But at this point, I'll ask you both and just jump in, whoever wants to. When you look at Ryan Day and Josh Heupel, I think Ryan Day was the rising young star when he took over that program at Ohio State, and was part of the reason they were willing to make the move from Urban Meyer so easily. But now, who's the rising young star? Is it Josh Heupel or Ryan Day?
Jarreau, I'll let you start with that.
Well, I think Ryan Day at this point is more of a proven commodity. So I feel like if you're saying somebody's a rising young star, they probably haven't done much yet. And I feel like Ryan Day was able to take over an Ohio State program that was at the top of college football, and he was able to keep it at the top of college football. So I wouldn't call him a rising young star as much, because I feel like he's risen already.
Yeah, probably fair.
I'm going the other way.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I don't think he's a proven. I think he's a proven non-commodity. I think he's proven not to be that good of a coach, honestly. I don't think it's that hard to keep Ohio State at the top. And I think what's really hurting right now, just wanted to point out, if you guys haven't noticed, Urban Meyer offensive coordinators are recently getting fired. Tom Herman got fired from Texas. Dan Mullen got fired from Florida. That coaching tree is not having the same pull it had about 10 years ago.
Offenses, when you think about it, 15 years old, with Alex Smith back in the day at Utah.
20 years old, actually.
Yeah, 20. Max Anderson, the offensive tackle, had a question on the board about him out of Frisco, Texas. Yeah, he has set his visit to Tennessee. He's also looking at Alabama, Arkansas, Florida as well. A 4-star guy by the 247 composite, which we use as our default on Off the Hook Sports. I think the fact that he set his visit says wonders about Tennessee. But in the end, I think this is going to be a pretty long battle. And he's a guy out of, again, Frisco, Texas, Reedy High School, 2024, that will certainly be sought after. Already 6'5", 300 pounds. Jarreau, this is the type of guy that Tennessee will have to battle with other schools. When they start beating the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world for this type of guy, that's another evolution in Tennessee's recruiting.
I think so. And for Anderson as well, a school we're not talking about is Oklahoma, because his brother goes to Oklahoma. He lives in Frisco, Texas, so he's close to Oklahoma. And realistically, I feel like if Brent Venables, I don't know what his commitment timeline looks like. He might go on visits and commit in the summer. But if he does choose to be one of those guys that waits until signing day, if Brent Venables all of a sudden turns around Oklahoma's program this year, he might want to go play with his brother be a Sooner. So that's another place to watch. But for an O-lineman, I still feel like if Alabama wants him, they're probably going to get him. And, I mean, LSU's in there, Florida's in there, Oregon, Ohio State, who we just talked about, is in there. So Tennessee does have a really big battle, but he set an official visit for June 23rd, so they're able to roll out the red carpet and see if they can't sway him to be a Vol over some of the other places.
Hit that thumbs up, that like button. Caleb Calhoun. It used to be a situation in which you'd say he might not go to Oklahoma to be with his brother because then he'd be locked into a scholarship there as Jarreau goes off camera. But if he might not be, but now with the transfer portal thing, I don't know. He could go to Oklahoma, see if he likes it, see if Brent Venables continues to run that program into the ground. And once he does, both he and his brother could transfer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm trying to think of the last time two high-profile brothers went to different schools.
Yeah, maybe one of them's on the YouTube channel. Maybe.
No, I'm
Cooper Cade. Is that who you're referring to?
Well, but Cade went to Georgia, Cooper went to Tennessee, and then Cade decided to go back to Tennessee.
Right.
So, no, I'm trying to think where they like, and Tennessee was always the main school for the Mays family. Cade would have gone to Tennessee if Butch Jones hadn't let the program fall apart.
Agreed. And Cooper actually wasn't going to go anywhere else because Jeremy Pruitt just loved him. Just thought that he could play tight end, which he did, tight end, fullback, any number of positions, and just thought he was a football player because of toughness, and size was the biggest issue with Coop, but that's not anymore. So as he's right at 300 pounds and with a lighter offensive line that Josh Heupel likes to run, then I think Tennessee's good. So Jarreau, I know there's a big camp in Atlanta this weekend. Several prospects will be there. Anything else up on the calendar coming soon?
For spring practice, which is supposed to start March 20th, hopefully we get a schedule for that soon. A lot of these prospects who are closer, like 2024s, often opt to come for a spring practice to see what it would look like when they're a player, because most of these guys probably saw the facilities in the fall for a game visit. So I feel like people should stay tuned in, because as we go through the spring, we'll have a lot of guys trickle in for spring practice. And then the spring game on April 15th, I bet we'll have a lot of prospects in as well. And then, like Calhoun said, once the spring game's done, we just wait for school to end, and then we're going to have official visits rolling in probably every weekend, and we will be staying very busy.